CatLoveDreamingPeach.com. Peaches. JonBenét Ramsey, part 5. I thought I was done. Let me see if I should turn this on. Literally premiering it on YouTube right now, the compilation of all the videos that I did
typos, mofo,
earlier. And then I started to
yo.
watch Kendall Ray. This is a 2-year-old video. The Murder of JonBenét Ramsey case deep dive with guest Stephanie Harlow. I follow both of them on YouTube. This video is from 2 years ago, February 9th of 2022. So it's almost 3 hours long. And just listening to it filled in a few things that I didn't even know that only lead me to believe even more that both of the parents had something to do with it. So the things that I wanted to mention that I didn't know was that when the cops first went to search the house, the basement door was locked or jammed. So they actually weren't able to get into the basement. Then what I also didn't know was that John Ramsey disappeared for about 90 minutes. And he claims he was in his office, but there was no proof. Nobody actually knows where he went for an hour and a half while the cops were there, after they had searched but not found her. The basement door is locked or jammed, and he's poof. But then he comes back very agitated, and he was nervous. So the cops tell him, the father of the so-called kidnapped 6-year-old, to go look around the house and look for stuff, which is so bizarre and completely breaking all investigation rules. The entire house was contaminated. Patsy had immediately called at least 2 couples to come over, which again, I already said that was utterly bizarre. Everything about that is just breaking all kinds of protocol, contaminating crime scene, having witnesses there who can attest to her being upset, I suppose, but they're literally not adding anything except DNA that shouldn't be there. Like literally just everything about it is just terrible. The cops did not clear the house out. And then they send John, the father, who should have been suspect number 1 along with Patsy, to go wander around the house. And he takes his friend, Fleet somebody, and makes a beeline directly down to the basement. And the door suddenly works. So either he had a key or whatever. Somehow he knew how it was jammed. Whatever. He got in. Goes immediately down to the room where the suitcase was sitting there and the window that he broke the summer before. And he points it out to his friends, immediately saying, "Oh, that's weird. That suitcase shouldn't be there. Oh, I broke that window." And then closes it and latches it, which is very bizarre. And then this is what Stephanie Harlow said on Kendall's show, Mile Higher. He then immediately goes over to the other room that has no windows. The door was closed. She said the lights were off. And he opens the door and immediately says, "I found her," with the light out, then turns the light on where she's laying under a blanket with the rope deeply, and her arms. And then he rips duct tape off her mouth. He starts to loosen up the rope. Then he picks her up like this, apparently. He carries her away from his body, and she's stiff. And then he brings her upstairs and lays her on the floor in the middle of the walkway where everybody has been walking in and out. Not just the people that day, but a totally contaminated spot. He puts her on the floor. And then the other detective was like, back up, and said something about she believed that the murderer was still in the house. She looked him in the eye and, implying it seemed like maybe she thought it was the dad. They also said that except for that initial day, it took the Ramseys months before they spoke to the cops again. And the cops were told, treat them with kid gloves. Don't push back on anything they can't or won't answer. And that, that the possibility of them having political power or, basically because he was a multimillionaire who was, very wealthy. The cops and everything, the investigators didn't want to upset them and treated them as if they were immediately innocent and above reproach or suspicion. And that within an hour of finding her body, John was trying to book a flight on a private plane to go to Atlanta, Georgia, where he had a lawyer. And they were like, no, you can't go. No, you can't go. So, it's even worse. It's like, holy fuck. Another thing that I didn't realize was that Patsy had on the same outfit the day of the murder as the previous night that she wore at the party that they had gone to, which is very bizarre. She also had a full face of makeup. So, did she never go to sleep? And she was still wearing the same clothes from the party and the makeup? Or did she... it wouldn't make any sense that she would put the same dirty clothes back. Doesn't make sense to me at all. Especially she was a very wealthy woman who cared a lot about her appearance. Okay, so Officer Rick French conducted an initial search of the basement and came across a door secured with a wooden latch. He chose not to open it, assuming it was non-essential area. Later, John Ramsey opened the door and discovered JonBenét's body inside. Okay, according to the suitcase contained a blanket and a Dr. Seuss book. There were claims that the blanket had semen stains linked to John Andrew Ramsey, but he was out of town and he was cleared of any involvement. John Ramsey and the family friend Fleet White conducted a search in the basement. John opened the latch door to the wine cellar, a windowless room, found JonBenét's body, and then turned on the light and carried her upstairs. Upon finding her body, he removed duct tape from her mouth, loosened the cord around her wrist. These actions could have compromised the potential forensic evidence. He did try to make arrangements to fly to Atlanta where they had a second home. Some viewed that with suspicion. As far as the 90-minute unaccounted time, they were never able to totally verify it. The ransom note seemed like it was Patsy's, plus it was definitely from her pad, and they found a started note on her pad. Like, come on. There was no signs of forced entry, and the crime scene was completely contaminated by friends being there, by the cops not securing it, by people wandering around, including the parents. The media felt that the Ramseys' media engagement was very unusual and raised a lot of questions about their behavior. The grand jury voted to indict the parents in 1999. I think they're guilty. Thank God. CatLoveDreamingPeach.com.